So moving on, I will need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Mr. Shaneberg,
Aye.
Mr. Sartorius, Ms. Foss,
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest.
Aye, motion carries.
First action item we have for you tonight is the approval of this year's bus lease bid. Mrs. Mary Robinson.
Tonight we have the bus lease bid for you. Again, in collaboration with Minooka High School, we put our bus lease out to bid. Bids were received on January 6th, and they have been reviewed by our Director of Transportation and the mechanics at the Transportation Department. We had 10 buses that were actually just rolling off of lease. So about 6 years ago, we went to lease buses rather than owned. And each year, this is our first set of buses that have fulfilled the 5-year lease, and now they'll be rolling off, and we'll be recommending a new lease tonight. We still do have a handful of buses that we own that the mileage just isn't there. So we'll continue to watch those, and as the mileage gets up there, then each year we'll maybe add those on as they need to be replaced, but they're okay for right now. So we just have the 10. We are recommending Midwest Bus Sales, and what Midwest Bus Sales did this year is they gave us their internal leasing price, but then they also went out and got another lease quote for us from Kansas State Bank, and that came in much lower. So we're recommending that the board enter into an agreement with Kansas State Bank with an annual cost of $146,150, for a 5-year lease period.
Questions for Mrs. Robinson?
All right, if there's no questions, I need a motion to approve the award of the bus lease bids as presented.
I will so move.
Second.
Mr. Sartorius,
Aye.
Ms. Foss,
Aye.
Mr. Shaneberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest.
Aye, motion carries.
Next up, I'll ask our Director of Information Technology and District Photographer, Aaron Souza, to the podium for the approval of a project for junior high network wiring installation.
All right. Thank you very much for letting me talk. Sorry, I didn't flip the button on my laptop. So what we're looking forward to do tonight is for the junior high network wiring upgrade. This is installing a new network cable in every classroom and other academic areas to improve our Wi-Fi coverage in the building. All of the devices basically in the entire building these days now are wireless. Student devices, staff devices, and staff phones that connect on our Wi-Fi all run across this backbone that we're looking to upgrade for now, but even more importantly, towards the future. In a couple of years, we'll be coming to you with a access point upgrade request in 1 to 2 years, probably at the junior high and other buildings. So this is laying the foundation so everything runs smoothly and just operates correctly over the next, hopefully, 10 years. I've been up here a couple years in the past, so this is kind of like step 3 in our every building upgrade kind of project. So instead of bringing a massive bill to you guys for all, the entire district, we thought it'd be better to identify which schools most needed of an upgrade and bring that to you one time each year as we kind of progress and prioritize our needs. With that, the project total cost is just over $27,000, but this is E-rate eligible, so we would get up to 50% reimbursement, so the total impact to the district would be just over $13,000. So we're pretty excited about this project. It would be done over summer. We will be coordinating with both summer school and buildings and grounds to make sure that we're not in their way and all that, so everything goes smoothly for the actual summer cutover and then prepping for the start of the school year. With that, I'll take any questions for that.
I have a question. Is this a company that we've used previously? This is 3 of 7. So were the first 2 with the same company?
Each year, we've actually found hold on. Basically take the lowest bid as we have a whole matrix of evaluating, and this time it's a different company than last year. But we check the references and we look at who can do it in our timeline and at a reasonable cost. So this Total Infrastructure Solutions is new to us, but they seem pretty reputable.
Other
Jen, you have a question,
questions?
or-
Oh,
Mr. Sartorius, did you have a question? Your mic's on, so we didn't.
Okay, I didn't understand it.
Okay.
Okay. I move to approve the purchase.
I'll second.
Yeah, I believe that was Mr. Sartorius made the motion to purchase, seconded by Mr. Schoenberg.
Mr. Sartorius,
Yes.
Mr. Schoenberg,
Aye.
Ms. Foss,
Aye.
Mrs. Conquest.
aye, motion carries.
Moving into discussion and information items, the first item this evening is an annual event for us, normally around the time of February, but it is our proposed additions to staffing for 2022-23. I'm going to invite Director of Human Resources Sarah Massey to the podium.
Hello, everyone. I had the opportunity this year to take on this task of doing the staff recommendations for next school year. Just to give you guys an idea of the process that we followed, Dr. Staub and I met with each of the building principals. We reviewed with them their needs based on projections that Dr. Mon had run for our enrollment as we have it now, knowing that those will change a little bit probably, but based off of the numbers we had currently. So we talked to the principals about what they saw as a need, and then Dr. Staub and I went back and kind of crunched everything, looked at it globally, and came up with the recommendation that you folks see before you. Some things we did not include that the principals asked for, but it is a pretty good reflection of exactly what they said they needed in the buildings to be able to do what's right for kiddos and for their staff for next school year. So to give you an idea of the breakdown here, we based everything off of our strategic plan, looking at things through the lens of that strategic plan, and then the needs as the principals saw it currently. You'll see, pardon me, based on long-range strategic goal 1, which is to demonstrate continuous improvement in student growth and achievement. You folks had already approved the 6 FTE of instructional coaches, which will be implemented next year. So that is listed under the strategic goal for improving our student growth and achievement, because we're hoping that those folks are going to be able to roll their sleeves up and get in the classrooms and help our teachers improve overall learning and delivery of instruction for our students. You'll also see listed there, we are looking to redistribute some of our ELL staffing, if you will, from Walnut Trails, sharing with MES, making sure that we're meeting the needs of the ever-changing population of our ELL students. Looking under long-range strategic goal number 2, which is cultivating a safe, engaging, authentic learning environment that promotes student confidence and growth. This is a lot of what you folks heard at our last board meeting. It reflected from Dr. Staub and her team's presentation regarding our social emotional learning with our students and the needs of those students. You'll see we're asking for 2 full-time employees in the social work arena. Currently, we have a lot of 1.5, so a building would have 1.5 social workers. We're looking to increase that to 2 social workers, if you will, at each of the buildings. So a total of 2 people, but we're looking to increase staffing across the elementary schools so that we can have more folks that are helping our kiddos. Also looking to add 1 FTE of a special education building case manager, splitting that between Walnut and Jones. We piloted that this year out of necessity, but it ended up being a pretty good fix to our problem, if you will. So we're looking to add another one to split between the elementary buildings. That person, as you can see, will assist with the caseload management, scheduling meetings, and evaluation for students with IEPs. Dr. Staub, you got anything to add on that one? Okay. I always like to defer to you when I'm talking that land. Additionally, we're looking to add 1 FTE of an academic counselor at MIS. Mrs. Peekle, in talking with her, spoke about the desire to do more academic support for her students and just how they don't have the manpower to do so. So the addition of this this person would be able to assist with scheduling and some of those behind the scenes things, but also supporting the students that are struggling academically, doing a little more proactive rather than reactive approach to supporting those kiddos. Hopefully, doing some at-risk analysis and catching those kiddos before they fall behind. Looking to model that after the model that we have going at the junior high with the academic counselors at the junior high. We're also looking to add at Oxable an MTSS associate. Again, this is reflexive based on the needs of their student population. Ms. Mano spoke about how she would like to be doing more push-in work with some of the kindergartners and doing some more math intervention groups and things of that nature based on the needs of their kiddos in their building. So looking to add an associate to help with that. The next item listed is 3 full-time employees in the arena of campus monitors. I think those have been an invaluable addition to the campus, both at MIS and the junior high. One of the things with the junior high addition of 2 campus monitors is what we're proposing here. We have the lunch conundrum where, we are running out of time and space to feed folks at the junior high. So one of the solutions for that is increasing the location of lunch. Doing so would require additional supervision. The campus monitors would assist with that, but also ensuring the safety of our campus. I think those folks have really been invaluable in making sure that our campus was up and running this year. And, Ms. Pico getting those folks this year also just sang their praises and how it helps the efficiency of their building and ensuring the safety and security of all the students in the building. Switching over to long-range goal 4, which is to strengthen family and community engagement, communication, and collaboration to student success. We're looking at adding a 0.5 community relations coordinator. That person would assume the responsibility for managing communications on behalf of the district to further foster transparent and timely information sharing with our stakeholders, thus improving our relationship with the community. Strategic goal number 5, we are looking to add this one is ensuring community trust through effective and efficient operations and stewardship of facility and financial resources. Looking to add 1 cafe cashier. And you may say, why 1? So we currently run 2 lines really at each of the schools, but we're not, with it being free lunch for everyone, we're not running the registers. So next year, if we're looking to do a la carte and increasing our offerings to students as far as their ability to purchase additional snacks above and beyond the offerings of the lunch itself, when speaking with Miss Day, who is our Quest lunchroom coordinator, she said it would be really helpful if we had 2 lines, 2 cashiers going at each of the buildings so that it would increase our efficiency in the cafeteria, would allow those ladies to restock when kiddos take things, and also to make sure that those cash registers are manned at all times, if you will. So that's the ask there. Current staffing, once we shuffle everybody around post free lunch, we're assuming next year we'll go back to normal. We'll have enough to be able to do 2 lines at each campus with cashiers at each. So that's why we're only asking for 1 to be placed at the junior high. And then the last thing on the staffing is to reduce the current FTE of permanent subs. Currently, we're looking to reduce that to 2 at the elementaries and 3 at each MIS and MJHS. At the elementaries right now, they have 4. And at the campus, they have 5 apiece. So we're hoping that with the decrease of staff absences due to COVID-related quarantines and such, our need to employ as many permanent subs will reduce. So we, after talking with the principals, their assessment was that 2 and 3, given the respective levels, should give them enough flexibility to be able to really, I think they've been invaluable to make sure, that our principals can plug somebody in at the last minute. We always have somebody, and it's not our principals having to push in and sub, when things are down, or having to combine classrooms, or, use our junior high and MIS folks to internal sub. So this really provides them with some flexibility to be able to ensure that everybody's still getting their prep time, but we're also covering classes with folks that in-house know our procedures. That's important as well. These people who are our permanent subs and work with us every day know our safety protocols. They know our procedures. They know our kids. And that's really invaluable in making sure that, you know, our schools are running as efficiently as they can, as opposed to having daily subs that come and go, which are lovely and help us run our buildings. But having the guarantee of a couple folks in the building really is, you know, that's pretty invaluable. And then down below, you'll see is just a summary based on certified, non-certified, and then district staff as well. So just, it's the same as what's above, just a little bit differently organized.
So we would be happy to entertain any feedback or questions you have about the direction we'd like to go. This is not an action item for the board. The board takes action when they actually hire the people. So that's why we're looking for your feedback to make sure that what we would like to post and interview for does kind of meet with your intent.
I would just like to say first, I have to say that this report is amazingly well put together in the way that it reads and then matches the long-term goals. I read it a couple times and found it to be extremely easy to understand with the information, so I really appreciate that. My next question, I guess, would either be for you or Dr. Mon or Dr. Staub. With all of these positions, are we confident in our ability as a district to get the individuals and hire the folks for the positions?
Some of these are hard to find positions, which is beneficial for us to start interviewing as soon as possible. For example, the social workers, the addition of the academic counselor, we're going to want to make sure that we can hit the road running and start interviewing those as soon as possible. So yes, but it is always difficult in some of these positions.
And I know you all have a wonderful plan. I'm just a little cautious about this. When there's this many folks and there are these positions, I know it can be difficult. So I'm sure you have a plan for those.
I think Dr. Mon would say I'm part of the plan. Part of what we'll do, you're absolutely right. The reason that we're proposing it now is timing in education now is when, you know, openings occur and people start looking for jobs. So the timing is right for what we're doing. Are there a lot of positions listed? Absolutely. But what we've done through the HR office, if you will, is we do a lot of the dirty work and then just bounce names and resumes and stuff to the principals. So we're doing the behind the scenes digging and AppleTrack and reaching out to universities and, you know, the different places where we can pull candidates from. And I think I hope the principals would say that's been helpful. So I think, you know, that's going to be our objective once we get the green light on whatever the staffing looks like, approval for next year. You know, we're going to get those posted first thing in the morning. That's with the help of Ms. Shanholzer over there. And then we'll start hitting the ground with folks as they come in and then sharing those with the principals and really funneling it through the HR office to help those guys out. You're welcome.
And I will say, like, this year, like, we've had plenty of staffing openings that have popped right before school. Throughout the year, we've had plenty of staff decide that, you know, they were going to go take a job elsewhere. We have been able to fill those spots in time. It maybe wasn't as quick as in normal years, but we have been able to find people. So with this much lead time, I feel pretty confident about that.
Just following up from last month, we had that awesome presentation about the social emotional needs of our schools, our students. Does this put us closer to those numbers they kind of represented, or how far are we from that with the addition of these positions?
It's definitely not going to be exceeding the ratios that we discussed last month, but it definitely puts us closer with the addition of the social workers at the elementary level, and then especially with the addition of the academic counselors. This report doesn't go into it, but we're also looking at some redistribution at the intermediate junior high with our program coordinator for special education that will assist with some of the 504s that our academic counselors there are doing. So they'll have more time to have hands-on time with the kiddos and actually working with our students. So this will definitely put us in a better position than we are right now.
And will we be exploring the intern situation like we did this year again? I know that was valuable to us, so hoping that that continues as well.
Yes, so we've traditionally offered 3 social work intern positions each year, and then we've been trying to offer a school psych intern position as well. So I'll continue to put it out to our social workers, and we need to make sure that our social workers and our school psychs are comfortable hosting an intern. Then once we have that need for them or that want for them to host, then we can put that out and start interviewing. And we do that just like an interview process for a direct hire employee. So I think that also helps our interns get a little bit of a taste of what a real interview looks like for them, and be a little bit more prepared for the real world after the internship is over.
Awesome, thank you. And I echo what Adam said. I love having this lined up to the strategic plan. It's really helpful.
Well, full credit given to Dr. Mon for that bounce pass. So, and Dr. Staub, thank you for your help on the report as well.
I would say an ancillary piece of this is we're adding a lot of support positions to like non-classroom based support positions in the schools. We have some people that are currently using those spaces that are now going to have to relocate over to district office. So we will be looking to even repurpose a little bit more space at district office, probably downstairs, because we've pretty much used every space upstairs that we can. But if you think Erica Martinez, our bilingual coordinator, will probably have to relocate back to district office. Our licensed school nurse, Mrs. Pelnarsh, currently uses space in one of the schools. So it's likely we'll be using one of our remaining, well, like storage classrooms, I guess now, and probably put a bunch of workspaces and cubicles in or something to bring people back over. So there will be a little bit of facility work to do here at district office to accommodate this. Any other questions for Ms. Massey?
Thank you, everybody.
Don't go anywhere, because next up we have the draft 2022-2023 school calendar.
It's excited about maybe sitting down. Okay, so our calendar work, it was actually a really smooth process. I got to work with a bunch of really great folks from across the district. What we did was we cast our net out and said to principals, give me a couple of names from each of your buildings. And we met with those folks, and Dr. Staub and Mary Robinson and Dr. Mon were part of the process as well. We came to the committee with a pretty good outline of a calendar that we felt was solid, but definitely needed some tweaks and some feedback from folks. And what we did was we sat the first meeting and got feedback, found a couple mistakes on our part that were goof ups. January had 200 days, or it was like 34 days or something. It was silly. So folks caught little silly mistakes that we had missed. And once we got those things cleaned up, and then based on the feedback that the committee gave us, we settled on 3 different versions of a calendar that had little tweaks here and there. And then we just got back together late last week and talked through, after those folks went back to their schools and talked to some people, we got back together and talked through the versions. And what we settled upon is what we called version 3A. The first main adjustment that folks talked about in our committee work was lengthening the quarters, second and third quarters. So the rationale behind making those a little more robust than quarters 1 and 4, if we have bad weather, it usually strikes in those quarters. Additionally, if we have testing, like March is kind of blown up because we have testing scattered throughout March. So really beefing those quarters up by adding a few days. It doesn't completely throw the ratio off, but there's definitely some more days added into those quarters. And the teachers all thought that they recommended it, actually. We were talking about it and they're like, no, we think that's a great idea. Elementary folks basically said it doesn't really impact us. But at the campus, we talked specifically to the rotational teachers, the fine arts teachers, to ask what kind of an impact that would have on them. And again, it came back overwhelming. That's the direction they wanted us to head in. So we did adjust the calendar as far as those 2 quarters are concerned and pulled more days into them. And then it really got into the weeds of some of the minutia. And we settled on 3A, as I said, and I'll just kind of give you a rundown. It parallels the high school calendar pretty closely, and we knew that that was important going in. One thing to note, you'll see, I'll start at the beginning of the year. We're starting the week of August 15th, which is pretty traditional for us, right around that middle of August. We'll do Monday, Tuesday as Institute days, and we'll have students on Wednesday. We also had to take note this year with our calendar that Election Day, November 8th, is now you don't go to school day. So we had to factor that into our calendar. And you'll see that we have a Teachers Institute that is the Monday before that. In our original version, we had that on November 4th, and that was a really great suggestion from one of the committee mates to bump that to Monday, as opposed to having a Teachers Institute on Friday, having a school day on Monday, and then Tuesday off. So that was one of the minor adjustments once we we threw that November 8th on there that we ended up making. And then if you jump to spring break, we are pushed back into April for next year for spring break. Couple of reasons for that. The high school was doing it, and we knew that it's important to our families to align with the high school. And it also aligns with Easter holiday. So if we had taken it the traditional time frame in late March, we would have had our spring break for a week. We would have come back to school for 4 days. Then we would have had Good Friday off and then a long weekend. So it would have been a herky-jerky kind of couple of weeks. So we decided to go ahead and bump it back to April. And again, it aligns with the high school and just seemed in the long planning of Easter and where it's going to fall here in the next couple of years, it just seemed like a really good alignment. And then the last thing you'll see, our last day of student attendance is again prior to Memorial Day. That's kind of been a pattern for us over the last how many ever years we've been doing that. We try to get out, plan for the last student day of attendance to be prior to Memorial Day. So with this version, we were able to do so. Any questions about the calendar?
Again, this is here for information tonight, but it is eventually an action item, so we will take any feedback you have, and we will bring this back to you in March for action. And we currently have a draft of the 23-24 calendar that is ready to be discussed at committee level, but we're also in the middle of bargaining with the teachers, and we know the education committee is going to have a conversation about parent-teacher conferences, so we want to let that process work its way out before we start to look at even the next year.
One other thing I would point out with this calendar is Ms. Massey worked very cooperatively with the teams to look at our quarters and ensure those quarters that we traditionally have a lot of testing for MAP testing or Ames Web. And then in third quarter, when we have a lot of the IAR testing and the Illinois Science Assessment testing, we've kind of made those quarters longer. So it is a little bit easier for our students and our staff to have more academic time during those quarters as well.
Any questions? Thank you.
Good.
And our final discussion and info, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Massey. Final discussion and information item is an update on our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative that the team from the junior high has been leading. Mrs. Adrienne McCarroll. Mrs. Adrienne McCarroll and others.
Maybe you
as
guys
there-
were a little tired of me talking, so I brought some friends with. Go ahead, Dr. Saab, I apologize.
No worries. As the team's coming up, I just wanted to share that the diversity, equity, and inclusion team has been working hard at the junior high. And then we've also started doing some district initiatives. And with that, we've taken some time during our district sessions to focus on what are the next steps for the entire district. So with Ms. McCarroll's team that she has here tonight, she has some student representation, some staff representation, and they're going to take you through those recommendations. And oh, I'm sorry, Erin, did I forget to share my screen? I'll go ahead and I'll start that. But they're going to take us through those recommendations and go through kind of where we're going with this entire initiative. So I think it's a pretty awesome presentation that they've put together, so I'm excited for it.
Thank you. So with that being said, there is a lot of information, so please feel free to interrupt along the way. Don't feel like you have to wait to ask the question because there's lots of different areas we're touching on tonight. So I've got Ms. Nurchek. She is our librarian or our media specialist. She's also on the district training committee team with me tonight. And then I've got Ms. Noah Johnson and Ms. Deja McDuff here to talk about some of the student initiatives kind of going on. All right, so our update, we're going to kind of 3 different discussion points here. I'm going to give you an update from the junior high, and we're going to listen to them more than me when it comes to that stuff. Then we're going to talk about the district diversity team update, kind of what's been going on there, revisit what some of the previous topics were, and kind of what came out of our last meeting, because there was a lot of information to come out from that. And then the planning the next steps, kind of where we're at with the district committee, and then we need to talk kind of as a district where maybe we see ourselves going. So that's kind of where our discussion is going to go tonight. So first up is the junior high update. Like I said, I know hopefully you're not too tired of hearing from me, but I think it would be very nice for you to hear from some other people. So I've got Ms. Nurchek here to kind of speak briefly about maybe what this training has done for her personally, professionally, and then with the students that she works with in the language arts classrooms and in the LRC. So Ms. Nurchek.
All right, thank you. So like I said, or like Mrs. McCarrow said, I am Courtney Nurchek. I am the librarian at the junior high school. And personally, this training has impacted me just, you don't really know how much you don't know until you do a training like this. So I will say first off that this is some of the best professional development I have ever attended. They are full days, and I think some of you guys know that some of those full days can be kind of, but I love going to it every single time. It's very refreshing. And then it has inspired me to seek out some information on my own. I am a librarian. I love to read. So some of the books that I've been reading for my own personal enjoyment are now about these diversity and inclusion topics. Just because, like I said, there's so much that due to my own privilege, I haven't had to think about in my life, but it's stuff that I need to be thinking about for the sake of the people around me and for the sake of my students. Professionally, I am looking to include more of this into the library's curriculum, which is kind of new this year to be teaching lessons, and the library's collection. So I am looking at what kind of books am I buying for the library? Am I being inclusive in my book buying? Am I including, you know, different representations of people in the curriculum? For example, I'm trying to hit, you know, Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, Women's History Month, and do lessons that are not just during those months, but throughout the year. And then with students, I do want to give a shout out to Steve Warchalek because he and I are running the Diversity Book Club at the junior high right now. This was our first year being able to do it in person with students. And something I was able to take from this training was just, how do I have these conversations with students? It was really great to start this diversity book club because these are students who are ready and willing to have these conversations. So it was kind of like dipping my toe into the water. And it was amazing. We really let the students lead it. And not only did I learn that once you open up to the students, they're going to talk to you so much about their experiences, but they also have some really fabulous ideas about how things could go at the junior high. So as a librarian, just tapping into that student potential, I think has been the biggest thing for me. So I'm just really excited to be a part of this committee, not only professionally, but like I said, personally, and I'm really excited to see where it can go in the coming years.
Thank you, Ms. Nurchek. All right, we also have our Allies for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity Committee. It's our aid committee. It has staff and parents involved on it. So we are working with the Pinterest Family Fun Night Committee to kind of create an activity that kind of can bring people into the building. And we're trying to come up with different, creating rooms, paintings, music, food, whatever the case may be, COVID friendly. Where we can embrace kindness and diversity and respect. So we're working with the Pinterest Family Fun Night for that. We're also working on coming up kind of with a strategic plan and some long-term goal setting with everybody on that committee too. In addition to that, the junior high is still doing diversity newsletters each month. And then at our bi-monthly faculty meetings, we also have some sort of diversity learning target, whether it's about developmental disabilities, Women's History Month, African American History Month, whatever the case may be. We're always trying to learn and bring something else to the table. And then finally, we've got student involvement. Ms. Nurchek spoke to it a little bit. We've got our diversity club. Our student council is doing a lot of work. We have a couple young ladies here that are going to speak momentarily, kind of what has come from kind of February Black History is American history. And then we also have our hashtag Team Feelings, our social emotional support team, working on incorporating more diversity and inclusion into some of our second step lessons. So I'm going to go ahead and have Noah, go ahead, come on up first, if that's all right with you. Okay.
Thank you for letting me be here today, but I would like to talk about the diversity that we've been implementing in schools. I do think that we have, by doing the Black History Month and the announcements, it has improved in student scores. They take a quiz, and after comparing the first and second quizzes, there's been an improvement in the amount of 100% scores and the amount of learning and people participating in the quiz. So I think that more people learn about Black history, and I've read student responses on Black history, and they seem positive and interested to learning more. I do think that my school needs to be improved when talking about racism and the appropriate terms that we're supposed to be using, and more, including more diversity, because our school has a lot of negativity towards races and genders. But I do think the schools learning at a younger age more about diversity would prevent the racism that I'm seeing now in the older ages.
Any questions for Noah? Then Ms. Deja will go ahead, come on up.
Hello, my name is Deja Mikta, and I will be speaking to you about school diversity. Okay. First off, I want to say that school is definitely where you find your niche. When you are going through education and you're going through school, you kind of start figuring out where you belong. And it definitely starts at childhood. It takes root in the vulnerable minds. Walking to a school, you are definitely hit by different. Like there are different children, different curriculums, different school, different teachers. But to achieve this diversity, we don't have to look at it as different. We don't even have to look at it as normal. We must at least acknowledge that it is beautiful because it is the world. It is our world. Walking into MJHS for the first time, I was highly aware of like the rush of more Caucasian students. My school has definitely had more Black and Asian and Latinx children than what I was accustomed to in the intermediate, but the bar is still pretty low. I am currently seeing more diversity in their intermediate, but we're getting there. We're certainly encouraging the mindset of diversity. At MJHS, we are definitely speaking to the ambitious. We are adopting more clubs, we are communicating, and slowly but surely we are healing the loud wounds. But I fear that we are not doing enough for the withdrawn. The stars that aren't the brightest are sometimes overlooked and mistaken for blown out. There are quiet children whose thoughts are deeply rooted in the criticism of our era or the trauma of their past. Though we cannot speak to them, we're definitely reaching for them. In addition to the clubs, shout out to the library, has been doing an amazing job of educating and diversifying the books. And there are more books that are talking about everything, and we are really learning. I love the fine arts curriculum. We're doing a wonderful job of bringing those unsung heroes like role models, and children are seeing themselves as being great. We're learning to communicate and we are learning to celebrate. But not everything falls between a teacher and a student. And parents, I only ask that you encourage acceptance and individuality. Thank you for your time, and together we will be brave. Together we will be the light.
All right, I did promise these three lovely ladies that I wouldn't make them stand up here the whole time. So are there any questions before I go ahead and let them sit back down?
I just want to thank you for coming and presenting to us. It's not often we have students present, and it's a fantastic treat, and you guys did an amazing job. So thank you for coming and doing that.
I just want to echo those sentiments as well. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it, and sharing your perspective and your ideas. And I was actually wondering if it's okay with Mrs. Baccaro if you would be willing to maybe attend one of the 8 committee meetings and share some of that with the rest of the parents and teachers and staff as well. So just think about it. But thank you. Thank you for coming.
Told you, much more interesting than listening to me, right? All right.
Their presentation was much more exciting than Ms. Massey's calendar presentation, like by far.
I gotcha. All right. So we say this a lot in the diversity committee. They say behind mountains are more mountains. Taking this journey one step at a time, there are times when it's really challenging and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. I love our diversity committee district meetings because it's where I get my cup filled back up. There's a lot of times we feel like we're not going anywhere, but then we have those meetings and we talk and we breathe and we think, and it's like at those moments I'm able to kind of turn around and I see the mountains we've already climbed. I know we've got a lot more to do, but I feel like we're already getting there. So I appreciate everybody's efforts in that and helping keep us at the junior high refreshed so we can keep doing the good work. And I know our other building admins are ready to go with this too. They've got a lot of great ideas that we'll talk about here momentarily, that they're just as excited to get their teams ready and going as well. All right, so the district training update. So we talked a little bit about the junior high, but as a district, so if you remember, September, October were our initial trainings. It was it's hard to describe the training. It's life changing, and I don't know how else to say it but that. Like everything that I do in my life now, like I think about diversity and equity and inclusion. Like it's truly just life changing. And it sounds simple when you talk about it. Someone asks you, what'd you do? And like, oh, well, we talked and we charted. And they're like, really, that's it? But it's just amazing. You're able to talk to people. You break down the barriers so that you can really have those open and honest conversations. And that's what we did in September and October, so we could build the foundation to be able to have those challenging and difficult conversations with one another so we can all grow in our DEI journey. In November, we revisited the topics and some of the activities that we did, and then we talked about bias and microaggressions. January, because we were pretty short-staffed, we decided to move that meeting to April. So we just kind of moved everything back a month. We were able to meet this month, and we talked about the history of SMART and kind of where IQ came from. And it was very enlightening. I learned a lot that day. We spent a lot of time talking about where, we talked about eugenics and kind of how that formed, and whether we thought people were smart or not and how they were classified as smart. And it was just very eye-opening, some of the underprivileged groups that kind of took hits because of how those things were built in our society. We also spent a good amount of time talking about short and long-term planning and getting some feedback from the committee. So that's what the rest of this presentation is kind of going to be geared towards. I want to thank Dr. Staub and Ms. Massey. They were able to take all the sticky note charts that all the groups did and kind of synthesize that data for you tonight, and I'm going to kind of go over that. So the feedback from the committee kind of fell into 4 different areas. And we're going to briefly discuss the suggestions that make up each of those components. But you'll see district committee for a shared focus, district leader that oversees the implementation, building based, connecting our schools and community, and then student and community involvement, which includes student and parent voice. So the first one, district committee, shared focus. I come kind of from an athletic background, and I think that's why I really value teamwork a lot, but I liked Phil Jackson's quote here: the strength of the team is each individual member, the strength of each member is the team. And I think that's really important with the district committee as we move forward on our DEI journey. So I think the building admin will tell you that as they're going through this training, they can't do it alone. Our building is the only building that has several staff members in the training because we're going to pilot, we're working on kind of what works, what doesn't, where we need to kind of steer some of the things, where do we need to review and reflect and change some of the things we're doing. They're excited. The other building principals and administrators are excited, but they can't really move forward until we get their teams trained. So they're excited about that. When we do that, we need to make sure that we have a shared focus as we move forward, which is why we need the district committee. So if we look at what those things mean, the district-wide committee, it would be composed of admin and staff and parents and possibly students. We need to make sure that we have a shared mission and a vision statement. I kind of think of it like an umbrella, right? We need an umbrella so everything that we do as a district kind of falls and supports the same mission and vision. How different buildings might do those things might be different, but we need to make sure there's a commonality there. We need to create a resource share, which I know the district has already kind of started that. Some of the things we've been doing at the junior high we're saving for other staff to use. We need to make sure there's a curricular focus. We need to make sure there's professional development. We need to make sure we're reviewing our policies, our practices, and protocols. All right, so we need to make sure that everything we do is through the lens of DEI. Right now, we're taking curriculum and looking at it and applying this DEI lens to it. Professional development, same thing. Our policies. I hope we can get to a point where we, the central focus is DEI, and then we have the curriculum lens through that we look, and we have the PD lens. I hope we can get, maybe in the next year or two, kind of shift to that focus. Next would come into play would be district leadership, a common vision and support implementation. So the leader builds dispersed and diverse leadership, distributing leadership to the outermost edges of the circle to unleash the power of shared responsibility. No one person can do this alone, but we do need to make sure that we've got a shared vision and that somebody is there to assist, or somebody's. We need somebody that kind of leads the district committee. I kind of look at it like we need somebody to hold that umbrella up to make sure that we're there to support what the other district level leaders need, what our kids need, what our parents need, but we need somebody there to do that. Probably need to do some sort of needs assessment with the building committees and make sure that we are giving our staff the PD that they want and need. For example, we do some sort of needs assessment. Perhaps some of them want to learn more about equity vocabulary. Maybe we decide as a district we want to make sure, you know, everybody in the buildings or everybody in our district is trained on unconscious bias. We need to figure out, you know, as people are curriculum developers, what does it mean to have culturally responsive curriculum? Emotional intelligence, maybe that's something we need to dig deeper on because it is so connected to DEI. But we need to make sure that we are doing what we want and need, but we need somebody to help with that vision and keep the ball rolling. It can be really hard to just look at the lens of curriculum, but then forget about, you know, PD or maybe the community events that are going on within a building. But if we've got somebody to kind of keep that stuff rolling and going, we're going to make more progress faster. The third area that the committee came back on with feedback is in regards to building-based stuff, connecting our schools and community. The junior high has really been trying to push things. We've got a lot of students that are actively engaged and wanting to help with this, and it just makes it so much easier to move forward with some of these things. But there's no, the quote that I put there that I like is, there's no better place to create a caring community than in our schools, the heart of our future. And that is absolutely true. And it's not just, you know, the admin doing it, not just a couple staff members, but it's everybody within that community working towards that. And this is why the umbrella is so important, because different buildings will have different needs, and we need to make sure that we support that. We want to make sure that it's kind of like when you're doing curriculum at the different buildings. The skills need to be the same that all third graders are working on, but how they teach those skills can be very different, and that's okay. Same thing with what we do with the building-based DEI. It can be very different building to building what it looks like, but we're still assessing the needs. We're still working on our DEI journey within each building. So if you look at some of those things, some of them have already been talked about tonight. The junior high, we've done diversity clubs. Maybe some staff want to do book clubs, book studies. A building advisory committee, I think, is going to be important for each building. But then my recommendation, suggestion would be that you take somebody from that district committee and put them on there. So we've got a lot of communication going on. Department level talks, grade level talks, embedding in the curriculum, in-house workshops, increasing the conversation. The more you talk about it, the more it gets a little more comfortable to talk about it. It sounds silly, but that it like, when I first started this, it was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna talk about race. I'm a white person, I'm a white female, can I really have this conversation? Like, but the more you talk about it, the more you lean into the uncomfortable, that's kind of what we talk about at the training, the easier it becomes. And I feel like that's gonna be true of our staff, of our students, of our parents. And then character development programs, we also need to make sure we've got an elementary focus. Some of the things that maybe we're doing at the junior high won't work for the elementary, so we need to make sure that we're applying that lens as we go on this journey too. And then, like I said, just making sure whether we do a needs assessment and gathering ideas from all of the stakeholders to move this forward. Our fourth area was student community involvement. That is student and parent voice. And the quote I put here is, community is much more than belonging to something. It's about doing something together that makes belonging matter. And I think this is probably one of the best quotes, because that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We want to do something that makes belonging matter. Everybody deserves to feel safe. Everybody deserves to feel that they belong to something. And we want to make sure that our students feel that when they come into our buildings, feel that when they come into our district. Our parents feel it when they come in to register. So we're working hard to embrace this. Like I said, how much better was it hearing about some of the things we're doing than the staff and the students than me? But we're a community and we're going to do this together. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to involve the community of our schools, our businesses, our town, our city, our parents. What that might look like, all these things need to be done through the lens of DEI. Activate student and family voices, again, through the lens of DEI. Parent education, through the lens of DEI, you get it. Maybe some guiding questions as we're working on some of this. Some of the things I thought of, like, when we're creating some of these activities and community involvement, are we creating environments where any individual can feel welcome, like Deja had talked about? Do our students and staff see themselves as champions of this work that we're doing? Does this advance DEI internally and externally? Those are the questions. Maybe those are some of the guiding questions we use as we look at our student and community involvement. We are talking the talk. Now it's time that we walk the walk when we do some of the stuff. And that's where our student and community involvement is going to help. So if we take a look at our next steps, we're already kind of in the middle of these. Step 1, brainstorm. 2, take action. 3, reflect. And 4, revise. So the committee did this brainstorming at our last training, and as a district, we need to brainstorm what that will look like. Step 2, take action. The building teams or the building admin are already working on this for the teams. We are already reviewing the vision and mission. We look at maybe our strategic plan and how it lends itself to DEI. You know, how do we construct leadership from the district level? We need to start working on building that umbrella so that our staff have that protection and that guide as we move through the journeys within each building. And honestly, if you take a look, steps 2, 3, and 4 are all going to be kind of woven up into each other for the next couple years till we kind of pave the way of what DEI looks like for us. Hopefully in probably 2 to 3 years, we can get to a point where we've taken a lot of action. We've laid the foundation for a lot of things. They will continue, we'll reflect and review and revise and grow those, but we're going to take a lot of actions now. We're going to figure out what works and what doesn't, and we're going to reflect and revise and hopefully get to a point where we're doing great work, that we're all better because of all the work that we've done. So I'm going to leave you with the last slide, Ubuntu. It tells us that we can create a more peaceful world by striving for goodness in each moment wherever we are. So it's I am because we are. And I like to think of it as I am better because we are better. Like as a school, we are going to be better because of what we are going to do together through this DEI journey. So I know it was a lot of information. I wanted to leave you with this last moment because we talk about this a lot in our training. But with that being said, is there any questions for anybody?
Okay, I wanted to say that I know we'd spoken about the other folks and how nice it was to hear from them, but you said maybe we were getting tired of hearing from you. I'll just say that the passion that you have and that comes out when we do these, it's really overwhelming, the amount of passion and engagement that you have. And I think that if we tell you thank you each time you come up here, it's not too many times, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming again. Keep updating us.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I will say, like, on behalf of our entire administration, and I'm sure many of the teachers that are here too, everyone respects the massive amount of passion and the massive amount of work that you have put into keeping this initiative going strong. I will say, we are already taking steps here at the district level too. Like, obviously, we saw the report before you did. So yes, we're trying to decide exactly where we place district, oversight of DEI. Is it something that we assign to someone that's already here? Do we look to create a new position to lead this? So those discussions are already taking place. And like she said, I know the buildings have already started working on like how they would start to set up their own building committees. So a lot of this work, as she said, is currently underway. But thank you again, and as always, for your passion, and Ms. Nurchek and the two wonderful young ladies that spoke tonight. Thank you so much for lending your voice to this process and giving the board a bit of this, wonderful information.
Thank you.
Okay, that was our last informational item. So now we'll move into administrative reports. We're back to sports now. We will start with Mr. Searle for a positive and uplifting look at the world of buildings and grounds.
Good evening. I'd like to provide you a very brief update on the buildings and grounds. We're in the process of preparing for our spring break maintenance projects. This will include all of our filter changes, preventive maintenance of our HVAC systems, and the maintenancing of our grounds equipment. I'm in the process right now of determining our summer capital improvement projects for next year's budget in conjunction with the business department. This will include repair requests and capital work. I'm investigating what will be required to update the MPC playground. And presently I'm working with our architects SDR to come up with a comprehensive plan for future growth for the administration center. And that is a very brief update. Any questions?
I did want to ask you, with the, I know we've done snow removal differently this year than in the past, and with all of the snow and weather we've had recently, has it been going well enough for your liking? Is it going all right with the new plan?
I mean, it's night and day from last year. Having the individual, having multiple contractors has really saved the day on a number of occasions where one of them has been able to cover another one, or we've been able to cover one of them, and made it relatively seamless compared to last year. So very, very much an improvement. Anything else I can help answer?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Mrs. Robbins, did you have anything else? That's a head shake. No. Mr. Souza.
Yeah, well, just real quick, the Educational Technology Committee has been meeting again and again, and we keep evaluating different software, hardware, and procedures that would make teaching and learning either more efficient, effective, or engaging. And again, we had a nice meeting last week, and with the new software that we're kind of piloting at the campus for Hall Pass to kind of alleviate who's going out in the hall all the time and just get eyes on that, along with wireless casting and wireless presentation remotes that we're going to pilot. It's a good committee, and we're getting better at getting good ideas in and to then get teachers to pilot and test things. So I just wanted to say a thank you to all the teachers who have been joining us on our little ed tech committee meeting, and in the future when we actually look at possibly asking to procure large amounts of anything, we'll bring in their input for the board. But just wanted to give you a quick update on that.
Let's go with Ms. Massey. Do you have anything else to update? That's a head shake no. Dr. Cheserek. As she's approaching the podium, I will announce to the board what I already announced to our admin team, that Dr. Cheserek has agreed to stick with us for one more year. So we will continue to have an interim chief academic officer. We are thrilled that she's going to stick with us.
Thank you, Dr. Mon. Thank you, Board, for your support on that. I'm thrilled to be back for another year next year, so thank you very much. Just a very brief update in addition to my board report that you received. During the month of February, I've been meeting frequently with several of the curriculum teams. The ELA team have been meeting kindergarten through 5th grade. I just have one more this week, 3rd grade, and then we'll have made the rounds for ELA. The teams have been working very hard on module and lesson planning in addition to assessments with Wit and Wisdom. They will continue their conversations this Friday during our Teacher Institute Day. They'll be working in building grade level teams and having PLC conversations and extending the work that they've already been doing on Wit and Wisdom. And if time allows, they'll be heading into Eureka Math also. So that's coming up on Friday. Our math teams have been meeting as well. We have our math grade levels visiting Mokina School District in the next week. Kindergarten went for a visit this morning. Mokina School District utilizes Eureka Math. This is their 3rd year of implementation. So our teams are getting an opportunity to actually observe a lesson and have some conversation, question and answer with the teacher also. So they're having those visits in the next week, so hopefully that they come back and that they get some good information. Our social studies and science teams have been meeting frequently in the month of February, 6th through 8th grade. We are looking at piloting both social studies and science programs next year. So we have spent the month of February receiving presentations from different publishing companies. So the last one will be this Friday. And then after this Friday, we will spend time in the month of March doing an evaluation and completing rubrics for science and for social studies, and then coming down to a selection. So we are hoping to have that done by spring break. Also, last week I had the opportunity to meet with our health team, health curriculum folks from 5th through 8th grade. That was our initial meeting last week to do a curriculum review, 5th through 8th, and we will continue that in April. We'll be meeting again. A little update on our instructional coaches. The coaches will be here next month in March at the March board meeting to give you a little bit of an update how things are going. They are currently dabbling and practicing by working with a teacher, or some of them might be on their 2nd teacher they've had an opportunity to work with through a cycle. Cycle might be 2 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks. It all depends on the individual teacher and what they're working on. So the coaches will be here. They did send out a teacher survey to gauge interest for future coaching opportunities next year. So there were some very good and positive results from the survey, but I'm going to let them share the results with you next month when they're here. And that's all I have. Did you have any questions for me? No? Again, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sell?
I don't have much. Mine is a little bit more just thank you to all of the different committees that have been running this year, really running more recently to help us prepare for upcoming years. And as Ms. Massey shared, you know, between the calendar committee and the work that she was doing there, and then the collaboration between our district office staff and our building administrators putting together the staffing plans. Our MTSS teams have been working throughout every single month this year to develop a more consistent plan to lead our kiddos from elementary all the way through junior high and supports in that aspect. Our 8th grade special education teams collaborating with the high school to help our transitions going for our kiddos with special education needs transition to high school services. And then this Friday we have a professional development day. Our administrative teams that are part of the The Professional Development Steering Committee has been collaborating with their building teams. We've heard from the teachers that they want time to actually get their hands on the curriculum. Less presentation, kind of they don't want to see the sit and get. We want to see more of actually getting our hands into it and working with the curriculum, making it real for them. So that's what our next couple of professional development days are going to look like for our staff. I just have been so thrilled with all of the collaboration and the extra work that we've been seeing across the district for everybody to make Minooka a better place.
That was a brief report. Okay, I just have a few quick hits. First of all, you may have seen it in the junior high's report, but we have tentatively scheduled graduation for May 24th, assuming we stay down this path. That is the night that we have reserved at Minooka South. So we do have plans underway to where we can get back to the traditional graduation ceremony. We will see what the next few months bring us, but make sure that that date is on your calendar. Second, a reminder that I didn't bring up during staffing earlier, but that was the preliminary staffing just based on improvements and initiatives, but we are seeing enrollment growth again, the dreaded E word here in Minooka. I think after the holiday break, I think we had a net increase. Mr. Souza, we were talking, it was about 40, I think it was, somewhere between 30 and 40 new students just after the holiday break. Housing growth has come back. I think many people have seen that, but this past month, we received $60,000 in like developer impact fees just from Joliet, just from the growth that you're seeing up in the Lakewood Prairie area. So Jones, we may see a little influx at some point next year. But yeah, so housing growth is back. So it's very likely that as mitigations have gotten to be removed, and we have some families that choose to come back from either homeschooling or private setting, along with new housing growth, there's very likely to be further staffing discussions just to address class size type situations. I would expect that at the elementary level, the intermediate and the junior high, there's just nowhere else to put them, is generally what we are faced with. So we probably just have to see class sizes go up because there really is no more classroom space there. But I would preview that you can expect to see additional staffing for class size down the road a little bit. I spoke briefly about mitigations being lifted, but I'm sure everyone has seen the emails and the executive orders or CDC lifting things. So we are entirely mask recommended in our district now. It's nice to see everyone's faces out there. But we encourage everyone that wants to wear a mask to continue to do so if that's what helps them feel comfortable. And we want to make sure that everyone knows that let's treat everyone with kindness, regardless of if you choose to wear a mask or you choose not to. But yes, and honestly, I think our schools are running as smoothly as they have all year. The numbers right now that we have positive cases in the district, 0 staff members and only 6 students throughout the district are being reported on our dashboard. And right now, or at least as of last week, only 132 students were in quarantine. That's probably around 3%. I think our highest number at some point during the surge was 753. So it's actually having a good effect. It's keeping kids in school for in-person learning, which is what we want to focus on. So last thing I would say is following up on the DEI discussion. The State Board of Education is going to begin publishing data on equity in each district. It's called the Equity Journey Continuum. They've sent us the data in preview mode right now. I don't think it'll actually go live until the start of next year, but they're taking data that we're already sending them in the various reports that we or the buildings have to submit throughout the year, and they're taking that and they are trying to make sure that districts can see where they may have some gaps in access, where they may have some gaps in achievement, something like that. So that's another layer that we'll be working with the buildings. It looks like the information is coming to the district in aggregate, not at the building level, but that could possibly change here in the next few months. But that is something that you could see published here over the next, again, I think it'll be the fall, but they could move that up. I believe it's going to be added to the school report card that gets released in the fall. But we're already taking a preview to see, where they are showing the gaps, meld it with what we're seeing from our own internal discussions, and really trying to synthesize that for everyone. And I guess finally, I would say hello again to our friends from the MESP. Mrs. Hollick is here, hello. And we have a contingent from the MEA that is here as well. Welcome, everyone. It's nice to see you all. We always thank you all for your partnership and everything that you do for kids. So thank you for all of that. And that is the end of my report, unless board members have questions for me. But we do not have any scheduled closed session this evening.
Any board topics tonight?
Actually, just a point of personal privilege. I just want to thank everyone for the outpouring of support for my family and the loss of my grandmother, and tell everyone thank you. I greatly appreciate it, and my family does as well for those sentiments. Thank you.
Actually, that also brings up something that I was almost remiss. I'm sure many people also saw that one of our families was the victim of a house fire over the weekend. So we will be getting information out to the board, to our administrative team, to share with staff about different ways that our community can step up and support them, because it was a total loss, and the family's going through some hard times. So look for information on that.
If nobody else has anything else, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We're adjourned.
Thank you for coming, everyone. Have a good evening.